I'd like everyone to take a second and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine yourself walking through your neighborhood. As you walk, you see numerous traditional lawns on both the left and the right, until suddenly you come across a lawn that looks distinctly different. Where you once remember there being a traditional lawn, well manicured, now exists a garden. This garden is filled with fresh vegetables and flowers. You see tomatoes climbing up trellises. Peppers are ripening in the sun, and even a little hummingbird is dotting from flower to flower. As you look on, a young woman comes into the garden and begins to harvest. She sees you, raises up from the garden, waves, and with a big smile says hello. Now I'd like you to open your eyes. The unfortunate reality is that these traditional and resource-intensive lawns take up an enormous amount of space in the United States. So much so that they occupy 3 times the amount of land that corn does, making it the nation's #1 largest crop. This prevalence of unsustainable lawns, accompanied with a hyperdependence on synthetic inputs and a lack of access to healthy, local, affordable food, has created a food system that is ripe for change. Boundless Landscapes, a mission-driven startup, seeks to spearhead this change. They aim to grow a model of hyperlocal food production that transitions lawns in underutilized spaces into flourishing food gardens. Boundless Landscapes works to enhance access to local, healthy, affordable food, to decrease the use of pesticides, fertilizers, and water, to increase people's access to nature and the gardens themselves, to support pollinators and biodiversity, and to help teens gain valuable experience both in farm training and job training. Our Capstone team has worked with Boundless Landscapes to expand their operations by identifying key pathways to scale and finding ways where they can best strengthen both their environmental and social impact. To do this, we focused on 4 main areas of research. First, we did a national analysis of already existing edible garden businesses. Second, we identified key additional services we thought could best support Boundless as they grow. Third, we identified the best ways to strengthen food access, food equity, justice, and then lastly, we looked at how cities beyond Boulder, with their policies, can enhance and support the lawn to food movement.
So far, Boundless Landscapes has transformed over 6,000 square feet of lawns into flourishing microfarms. This year, the startup grew over 2,000 pounds of produce, and more than 150 pounds were donated to nonprofits fighting hunger. The rest was distributed to homeowners, wholesale customers, and sold at farm stands. And it turns out, Boundless Landscapes isn't the only one doing this impactful work. In fact, we identified over 100 organizations converting lawns and underutilized spaces into ones that produce food. We added these organizations to a database and mapped them out, then analyzed their similarities and their differences. We found that most organizations could be separated into 3 business models: a food-centric model, an eco-friendly landscaping model, and a nonprofit model. We then interviewed 13 successful organizations located all the way from the Bay Area and Las Vegas to Orlando and Chicago. We talked to nonprofits addressing food insecurity and mission-driven for-profits. We learned key insights like what services to offer, such as chickens and composting, as well as how much to charge for these services in order to remain a financially viable and impactful business. We then used this research to craft an operational guidebook for Boundless Landscapes, filled with recommendations and tools such as an ideal staffing structure, a worksheet to evaluate future locations for expansion, and steps to grow their teen apprentice program. But we realized even though Boundless Landscapes is a key player in the lawn to food movement in Boulder, one business couldn't possibly transform the entire nation's lawns. With this in mind, we created a website called Turn Up the Turf with publicly available findings to help new and established businesses join the lawn to food movement. We hope these resources will reduce the environmental impacts of lawns while improving everyone's access to fresh foods. After all, if just 10% of the nation's lawns were converted to vegetable gardens, they would meet 1/3 of the nation's produce needs.
We believe that Boundless Landscapes has an opportunity to increase food security in Boulder County, where more than 28,000 residents are food insecure. Individuals experiencing food insecure may also struggle with other resource-related hardships, such as housing and utilities. The startup is already donating a portion of its produce to nonprofits, but is also trying to find out how to get gardens themselves into more neighborhoods. However, their services are expensive and therefore not always accessible to low-income communities. So, we've identified 9 social equity programs that Boundless Landscapes can implement or expand, including internal DEI trainings and sliding scale payment model based on income level. Each program is designed to work towards greater food justice, equity, and security. In particular, we developed a sponsored garden program that would address food justice and equity within underserved communities. The program would provide participants with the skills, tools, and resources needed to maintain their own microfarms. Individuals and companies would donate to a nonprofit partner of Boundless Landscapes. The startup would then install and maintain their microfarms. This would allow participants to have greater physical and financial access to culturally relevant and healthy foods. In addition, these food gardens will create a space for recreation and socialization. Excitingly, it seems like Boundless Landscapes customers are on board. Based on a survey we gave to current customers, 2/3 of homeowners are interested in funding gardens in high-need and low-income neighborhoods. Homeowners' positive response shows how people can come together to address food access and empower other members of the community.
Behind the organizations making the grass to garden revolution happen are cities. During the course of the project, we identified cities that are really leading the urban agriculture charge. Some of them are the usual contenders you would think of, progressive hotspots like Seattle, Portland, or Austin. But there are others in this innovative lawn-to-food space too, like Sacramento or Cleveland. These cities are completely upending decades of zoning and ordinances that were precisely geared at keeping agriculture out of cities. For example, in 2007, Sacramento did away with their requirements that homeowners have manicured front yard ground cover, paving the way for more diversified food gardens. In 2013, Boston legalized urban agriculture as a by right land use, allowing the growth and for-profit sale of produce within city limits. These efforts and many others are making it that much more possible for the lawn-to-food movement to grow. The city of Boulder itself is considering how Boulderites can reimagine lawns and, at the same time, bring to life modern victory gardens. Our team participated in the city's first Grow and Give campaign, which encouraged residents to grow produce and to donate it to people in need. At the end of the summer, Boulder's Department of Climate Initiatives was beginning to study how lawns can be transformed to instead feed people, protect pollinators, enhance local water and soil, and otherwise improve the environment. With the operational guidebook for Boundless Landscapes and open source website we have created, we are proud to have contributed to the resources that lawn-to-food organizations can use to make all cities vegetable cities. By leveraging lawns, unused urban spaces, innovative city policies, and research like ours, these organizations can prove that city space can be so much more than lawns. And we hope that sometime very soon, you'll start seeing a lot more zucchini, tomatoes, and lettuce lining your neighborhood sidewalks, feeding the community, the soil, and the souls of our cities at the same time. Thank you.